the moon between us. In the quiet town of Astorville, nestled between hills and the endless sea, lived a girl named Alara. She was a librarian, soft-spoken and dreamy, with a heart that clung to the pages of love stories she never dared to live. Every evening, as the last golden rays spilled over the dusty bookshelves, she would sit by the window, watching the moonrise, wondering if somewhere under that same sky, someone was thinking of her. Across the ocean, in a city of lights and noise, lived a boy named Julian. He was a musician, restless, passionate, and always searching. His melodies carried the ache of longing, the beauty of silence, and the feeling that something, or someone, was missing. Night after night, he played his violin beneath the stars, hoping the wind would carry his song to a heart that needed it. Fate is quiet but never absent. One evening, Julian found himself wandering. The city had grown too loud, too fast, and he craved stillness. He boarded a train, then a bus, and followed the coast until it disappeared into a smaller, slower world, Astorville. There, he stumbled upon a quaint library with ivy climbing the stone walls and a light that shone through one small window. Inside, Alara was rearranging books when the chime above the door rang. She looked up, and their eyes met, two strangers who somehow felt like a memory. He asked for poetry. She led him to the section, and as he reached for a book, their hands brushed. The moment was brief, but in that touch was the weight of destiny. Julian returned the next day. And the day after. They spoke of books, of music, of dreams. He played his violin for her in the garden behind the library. She read him verses beneath the trees. Time became soft, stretched between the space of their glances and the silences they no longer feared. One night, as the first snow began to fall, Alara confessed her fear, that love, for her, only existed in stories. Julian took her hand and said, "Then let's write one, together." Seasons passed. He stayed. She bloomed. They painted the days with laughter and the nights with promises whispered under starlight. Their love was quiet, like the town that held them, but deep as the ocean that once kept them apart. Years later, in that same library, a little girl sat between Alara and Julian as they read her stories. Outside, the moon still rose over Astorville. And somewhere in the hush of twilight, the wind carried a song, a soft violin melody that had once searched for a heart, and finally, found home. When the stars remembered us. In a quiet coastal town named Elmsworth, nestled between the misty cliffs and the sound of waves crashing against jagged rocks, lived a girl named Clara Everett. She worked at a small, charming bookstore called The Whispering Pages, where the scent of old paper and sea salt blended into something magical. Clara loved stories, especially the kind that made hearts flutter and eyes water. But she had long since convinced herself that love, like the ones in her books, was a fantasy that existed only on pages. Then one rainy Thursday afternoon, Aidan Hart walked in. He wore a woolen coat soaked from the storm and held an umbrella that had given up long ago. His presence was like the first note of a song you've long forgotten but still recognize. With messy dark hair and eyes that looked like they held too many memories, he asked for a book by Rilke. His voice was low and warm, like candlelight in a dark room. Clara found the book, handed it to him, and smiled politely. But something in the way he looked at her lingered. As if he had known her in another life. Over the next few weeks, Aidan kept returning. Sometimes for books, sometimes for tea, and sometimes, just to sit and read in the armchair by the window. They spoke about poetry, old films, music played on vinyl, and why some people never forget the ones they love. He told her he was a photographer, taking time off to escape the noise of the world. One evening, as they watched the sky turn a soft lavender, Clara asked, "Why do you take pictures?" Aidan paused. "Because memory fades. But a photograph, sometimes it remembers for us." Clara was silent. Deep down, she feared forgetting. Her mother had once told her that the worst kind of heartbreak wasn't being left, but being forgotten. One night, Aiden invited her to the cliffs at midnight, where he promised to show her something extraordinary. Wrapped in scarves, holding hands inside his coat pocket, they reached the edge of the world. Above them, the sky shimmered with stars, clearer than Clara had ever seen. Aiden pointed out constellations, told her stories from different cultures, and finally whispered, "Whenever I miss someone I love, I look at the stars. Because I like to believe they remember us, even when we forget ourselves." Under that sky, they kissed for the first time, soft and aching. It wasn't dramatic. It was simple. Real. And that made it unforgettable. For months, they were inseparable. They danced barefoot in her living room, shared silent mornings, took long walks along the shore collecting shells like memories. Clara had never believed in soulmates, until she met Aiden. But love, like the sea, is not always calm. One morning, Aiden disappeared. No note. No call. Just gone. Days became weeks. Clara searched, cried, and waited. She visited every cafe, gallery, and guest house in town. No one knew where he went. The bookstore felt colder without him. The chair by the window sat empty like a sentence missing its final word. And Clara, though heartbroken, refused to forget. 2 years later, the bookstore was hosting a local art show. As Clara walked in, her breath caught in her throat. On the wall, a collection titled "When the Stars Remembered Us" bore her name in every photograph, her laughter caught in golden light, her silhouette against the ocean, her fingers reaching toward the night sky. And standing beside them, just as soaked as the first day they met, was Aiden. Tears blurred her vision as he stepped forward, trembling. "I left because I was scared," he said softly. "Scared of how deeply I felt. But I never stopped loving you. I traveled everywhere, searching for something, but I realized, what I needed was right here. In you." She touched his face, her voice shaking. "You broke me. I know. But I'm here to stay, if you'll let me try again." Clara looked up. The stars outside the window blinked gently, like old friends. She took a deep breath and smiled through her tears. "Let's start a new story. And this time even the stars wouldn't forget."